my mom struggled every day to provide, to protect, and to survive. It was said on any given day that you might see my mom in the neighborhood knocking at the doors, humbling herself, begging for food for her children, and maybe even a place for shelter for the night. And then one particular day started like any other day as the norm for our family. The violence began. The rage was tremendous. But on this particular day, there would be a different outcome than all the ones before. On this particular day, my mom would have grown so weary that she no longer could fight. She no longer had the stamina or the strength to survive. And on this particular day, the violence would take my mother's life right before my very eyes. A day and a half later, someone heard the cries and the whimpers of a young girl and decided they needed to call. And when the authorities arrived, there they found my mother's body beaten and strangled. And over in the corner, they found an abandoned little girl shivering, fearful to be touched, but oh, so desperate to be loved and rescued. I was immediately taken into custody, and I became a ward of the state and placed into foster care. I had several placements, and if you were here last night, you heard Judy share, there are some really good placements, and there's some really bad placements. Can I just interject right there? Folks, we need Christian foster families to stand up. There are broken children, hurting children that simply need the love of Jesus poured out on them.
My soul to sing, my lips shall still repeat. Jesus paid it all.
Amanda, and I'm a leader here with Miriam's Heart. Mandy's story is a tremendous story. She's going to be sharing more of her story at our regional conference that we have this year on September 14th. She has 16 children, and I said anyone who has 16 children has a story to tell and is someone that we should listen to. So please, the heart of this regional conference is not for people who have an interest maybe to adopt, although it is for you too, but our priority at Miriam's Heart is not simply just an adoption and foster care resource ministry. It is really to show you where and how you're called to look after the orphan, because God isn't suggesting that we look after the orphan, He's demanding that we care for the orphan. And that is going to look different for each of us. And so whether it is to preserve the family unit and just come alongside maybe a single mom and her children, there's lots of ways of doing that, and we want to equip you to do that. And so we invite you to keep that date and to consider coming to that. This weekend is Foster Care Awareness Weekend, and we have information outside at the table. And I want us to consider what it might be like to be a child that doesn't have a family, that doesn't have a home, and has really no choice, and what happens to them, and how scary that might be for that child. And I want us to consider whether or not we have room in our hearts and in our home for that child, because it's a real unselfish thing we would do, right? It isn't something that we would be looking to gain something from that per se. It's really just about trying to fill in the gap between that child leaving everything they've ever known. Maybe it was a bad situation, but either way, it's all they've ever known, and then potentially going into another family and being adopted at some point. I can't imagine what that must be like. And we as the church, this is our problem to solve. It is not to be left up to somebody else. It's for us to solve. So if we leave here today and think, well, that's not for me, I'm not feeling called to do that, then we're missing it. We are missing the opportunity to help these children, to share the love of Jesus with these children. And I'm very passionate about this. I want you all to be thinking and praying about these children today and tonight when you go to sleep, because there may be nobody else that's praying for these children. And so we need to be doing that at least. And if you have questions, as you must, if that's something that you might want to consider, we want to come alongside you. Miriam's Heart has a table. We have a lot of tremendous contacts. We have the director of the Fair Lawn office from Bethany Christian Services who will be here today. We have a coffee fellowship coming up on June 17th. And at that, we will also have other resources from the state and from DIFUS, because it's so important that we get our questions answered. God asks us to count the cost if we're going to step into that type of a decision. And so we want to help you count the cost. We want to provide you with the information, the resources, support, but we need you to consider how it is that God is asking you to look after these children. So thank you for your time this morning. We'll be outside. Thanks.